Hi, I'm Nancy. Welcome to Mindful Yoga. Today we're doing the first of two spine routines. This practice is to elongate the spine and to learn a little bit about why it's important to elongate the spine and to keep the natural curves of the spine as we move. We'll be doing a lot of stretching to do that today. At the same time, thinking about the subtle energy that moves through our spine, thick with nerves, feeding our body, but also interacting with the world as it stretches between the sun and the earth, a kind of riverbed, as our poem today says. Let's take a seat where we can be comfortable and upright, finding a good connection with the earth. Sits bones relax down. Little tuck in the chin, long in the back of the neck. Lifting up through that spine, feeling its delightful length. Feeling the diaphragm. As we breathe, just bringing our mind's eye to the movement of the diaphragm at the bottom of the lower ribs. It's connected to the first, second, third lumbar spine, the vertebrae, and they also are connected to the psoas muscle, which comes up from the hip sockets, thigh bones. The quadratus lumborum is also there. So the diaphragm, the spine, these abdominal muscles, the abdominal muscle, the transverse abdominis that comes around from the spine, lower spine in the back around to the front. All of these make a kind of cylinder that is the strong support of the upright body. As the diaphragm moves, it's bringing some mobilization and loosening to the spine. And let the movement of the breath move up into the lower ribs as the muscles inside the ribs open the lower ribs. You can feel that there is movement there, mobilization back among the vertebrae of the spine. And as you let your breathing move up through the lungs a little bit more, you can feel opening behind the heart, the mid-thoracic vertebrae loosening the movement. And then finally, as we complete the filling of the lungs up under the collarbones, feeling collarbones lifting and also some movement and mobilization of the upper spine of the thoracic and even up into the cervical spine. So the cervical spine is the neck spine, the thoracic runs from the neck down to the waist, and the lumbar spine are down below. 5 lumbar spine, 12 thoracic vertebrae, 5 vertebrae in the lumbar, 12 in the thoracic, and 7 in the cervical spine, the neck spine. So as you breathe, you're loosening up and activating all of those vertebrae. And now to the subtle energy in our spine. There is a current of love energy that flows between earth below and sun above. The central channel of your spine is the riverbed. The streaming is delicate and powerful. Entering here, radiance arches between above and below. Your whole attention resting in the subtle vibrating, right in the center of the spinal column. Tracing this current between earth and sun, the spine becomes magnetism, relating all the worlds. A lovely way to think about our spine, about our breath, also connecting the outside and the inside worlds, and the spine connecting us vertically between earth and sun. Now letting the eyes slowly come open. Let's bring some movement just to the spine from the waist up. So without moving the arms much, hands remain on the thighs, opening forward, kind of in a cat-cow movement, and then back. But doing this just subtly, almost as if you could do it if you were sitting talking to people, but you could still do a little bit of exercise with your spine, opening in front to back. And then coming again to that upright spine and investing in the mobility of the thoracic spine as you come over just from the waist up to the shoulders, over a little bit to one side, and then over to the other, keeping length through the spine so that the discs remain healthy. Now, what does that mean? The discs are little pads that are in between the vertebrae, and they are made up of a little water balloon, we might call it, a watery gray matter in the center, and then around the edge is a fibrous ring. Let's bring a little rotation to the spine, again, very subtly, as if you could do this while you're having a conversation, keeping length in the spine, keeping some distance between the vertebrae, less weight onto those discs that really carry a lot of the weight that comes down through the spine. And that weight should come down through that watery center that is kind of like water balloons. Let's bring our arms out to the sides, reach out through the arms, and bringing still that elongation to the spine and uprightness to the spine in its natural curves, just turning mainly in the thoracic spine, where there's more rotation. The fibrous rings are called annulus, and they're not meant to bear the weight, those fibrous rings around the discs. So when we do a back bend, bring your arms down, or side bends, we're bringing weight onto those fibrous rings. And that's fine up to a point. It really becomes a problem when you're always hanging over here, or you're over side bending and bringing compression on fibrous rings in particular parts of the spine, or with the back bend, and so on. The little water balloons are called nucleus pulposus. And they are very plump with water in the morning, because when we sleep through the night, they plump up, and then during the day, they kind of decompress because they are taking the weight of the body. The water goes in and out of them. Let's open our arms like a cormorant, sunning on a log, and then bringing elbows together, rounding the back like a turtle, and continue going back and forth. Feeling the movement of the spine, feeling a little bit of space running up between the vertebrae and the spine. Then coming back through center, bring the hands down in front, slide the hands forward. And here, notice that the lumbar spine can bend a little bit forward. So the lumbar spine down below the waist doesn't have a lot of rotational or side bending to it, but it does have some flexing and extending. There are little facet joints that are bony knobs on the bottom and top of each of the vertebrae, and they form a joint with each other with synovial fluid in between. And in the lumbar spine, those joints are very vertical, which allows this kind of movement. In the thoracic spine, the facet joints are at about 45 degrees, so that allows a little bit more mobility, and we have more rotation and more side bending in the in the thoracic spine, in the main trunk. And then in the cervical spine, the facet joints are fairly flat, and so we have a lot of rotation, particularly in the upper two of the cervical spine, just below the bottom of the skull. And we have lots of rotation and lots of movement back and forth. Just feeling that rotation in the neck. Bring the right ear over towards the right shoulder. So we've got a side bend going through the cervical spine. And then we're going to rotate the chin around a little bit. So this will happen mostly in those upper cervical vertebrae. But what a beautiful thing that we can be mobile over to the side and then have that rotation. Left arm comes out to the side, fingers wide, then back behind the waist. Be long through the spine here, opening up through the chest, aligning the chest and aligning the neck into its normal and appropriate alignment, rather than the chest being kind of folded in as we look at our phones and our computers and sit in soft chairs through our day. And then bringing left ear to left shoulder, little turn, rotation through the cervical vertebrae, and then the arm comes out, back behind, and once again lift up through the spine, lift from hip up through shoulder, just enjoying that alignment that you can come back to again and again and give some correction to the way we live our lives on a daily basis. Now we're going to unwind here and come down onto our sides. So let's come down onto our sides all the way and let our head rest in the crook of our arm. And we're just going to bring our fingers back behind on our neck and feel the bottom of the skull and the 7 cervical vertebrae as you run your fingers down. Notice that there can be a hinge right at the bottom of the skull and the top of the cervical spine. And that can get overstretched. The fibrous rings, the ligaments can get a little bit too much wear and tear if we do that too much. And then running the hand down, you'll come to a really big vertebrae, which is the top of the thoracic spine. And that's another hinge that if you move your whole neck back in relationship to the rest of the back, you can get a real hinge there. So that's another one that we need to be careful of for not too much wear and tear. And then bringing your hands down, just your hand down just as far as it goes, down the thoracic spine. Feel those rather larger thoracic vertebrae, then bringing the hand back behind and running from along the back bottom of the ribs and down to the waist. Again, they're bigger than the cervical spine. Those 12 thoracic spine that have a little bit more mobility than these lumbar spines from the waist down. So feeling the lumbar spine that are quite large and that really carry the weight of the body. The thoracic spine, of course, also is helping out. And even the cervical spine has some of the weight of the head. And then at the bottom of the lumbar spine, there's just 5 vertebrae there. You'll feel the sacrum. And these vertebrae have become fused through your evolution as a body, embryonically that is, and down to the tailbone. There's a hinge at the back of the waist, and if you move your hips forward or your legs back, you will feel that there's a nice hinge there. It's a great hinge, but again, a place where even in yoga, we can put a little bit too much weight and on that hinge, as particularly as we do back bends. So we want to be careful of that. And then running the fingers down to the bottom of the lumbar spine, the place where the sacrum comes and meets the lumbar spine. If you move the bottom of the hips back and forth a little bit, you can just subtly feel that hinge. And that's another hinge between the sacrum and the lumbar spine that can get a little too much wear and tear. So those are just places that we're going to be careful of as we move. How do we get good core strength and at the same time keep a stable spine? Lying here on our side is one way to do it. Coming up onto the forearm under the shoulder, bringing the arm across to the opposite shoulder, the top arm, and the mild V with the knees, lifting up through the hips for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very little stress on the spine here, but making the core strong. Option to bring the arm straight up and do that again for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stay with that, or if you'd like to extend legs out, rearrange your arms so you've got good support underneath. Arm might stay across or up, and hips might come up and down or not. You might just hold your side plank for 3, 2, and 1, and bring it down. Now bring your head down to, again, nestle in the crook of your arm. Extend the legs out. Hips are stacked and ankles are stacked. Hand comes in front of the chest for some support. Toe runs from the ankle up through the knee and then hovers in the middle, bent leg, points up, flexes, and comes down slowly to meet the other foot. Coming up, coming to the middle, point, flex, and down. Nice relaxed spine. At the same time, giving the hip some exercise without making the hip and the lumbar spine carry any weight. So this is the gift of being able to lie down and move. And bringing that down. We're going to come around. You can just turn over if that works for you. Coming to your other side. And again, we'll have the V bend in the knees, forearm under the shoulders, arm across. And we're going to lift the hips for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Arm might come up, stay with any part of this, rearrange your arm underneath so that it gives you good support for 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then option to stay with that, what you were doing, or come into a side plank. Arm might be across the chest, it might be up, hips might be going up and down a little bit, or not. 3, 2, and 1, and bring it down. Nestle your head down into the crook of your arm. Legs are stacked, ankles and hips are stacked. Toe comes from the ankle up to the knee, hovers in the middle, bent, points up, flexes, and comes down. Relaxing through the spine here. No need for the spine to carry any weight. Hips can move easily. Imagine when we're standing and we're kicking out to the side or the front, the hips are both, and the lumbar spine and sacrum, are carrying all that weight as well as moving the leg. So this is a nice, easy way to save the spine a bit. Now we're going to come over onto our back. Let's just take a nice long stretch, arms up overhead. And as the heel goes down and we pull the wrist up, bring your mind's eye to a stretch through the spine. You feel a stretch through the organs and also all the way up through the spine. And then the other side, stretching up with special attention to making some space between the vertebrae, plumping up those discs. Now bring the arms wide in a T. Knees are bent above the hips. Let the knees come over to 45 degrees and up through center and over. We're giving some extra core strength here. A little bit to the abdomen, but particularly to the oblique muscles on the sides of the diaphragm, on the sides of the spine, which are part of that strong cylinder that helps to support the spine. One more time to each side. Also note that you feel the hips going back and forth. So we're moving the whole hip rather than demanding movement through the lumbar spine. Bring the feet down, knees are bent, but feet are about a foot away from the buttocks. Arms come along the side, palms are down, head and shoulders rise. Let one hand come down, slide down the mat towards the foot, and then slide back up. Shoulders kind of make an arc as the other hand comes down towards the foot, back and forth. Feel the pelvic floor engaging. Feel engagement through the transverse abdominis that attaches to the spine in the back and wraps around and comes together through various tissue in the middle of the lower abdomen. Very important part of the aliveness of the spine, its stability, and also aiding in mobility. And bringing the head back. Bring your fingers up behind the neck and give yourself a little bit of massage there. Then we're going to hug, let the head stay back, hug one knee up to the chest, other leg reaches out, extends out, and then slowly comes up towards the chest, extends out, comes up towards the chest. There's just this movement of one leg as the other one is hugged in. Relax through the shoulders, let them go down away from the ears. And what we're really exercising here is the psoas muscle, that deep abdominal muscle that comes up from the hip socket and attaches to the spine in the same region as the diaphragm, the top of the lumbar spine, the upper parts of the lumbar spine. So giving that some exercise, do the opposite side, hugging the other knee up and letting that other leg slowly come in and out. Relaxing down through the jaw and the back of the neck. Finding this ability to relax in the parts of the body that are not being called on right now, and bringing our full attention to the parts of the body that are called on for movement. Of course, it's all connected, but tightening up here in the back of the neck is not going to help our psoas to do any better. And then bringing the knees up, let's give our knees a hug, bring the knees out to the armpits, and let the feet come up into happy baby. And notice your spine in this posture. The tailbone is lifted, the sacrum is lifted, a little bit, the lumbar spine, right, is flexing, extending a bit as it curves around. And then the back of the waist, which usually has a curve inwards, now comes flat against the mat. But it's very relaxing for that part of the spine that can lift up and be relieved of the weight that it usually carries. Now bring the feet down 4 or 5 inches below the buttocks with knees bent. Arms are along the side. We're going to come into bridge pose. We'll tuck the shoulder blades in, tuck the elbows in towards the waist. Press into the heels. Hips rise up, but not overly far. So one of the things we'll be careful here is not to hinge in the back of the waist as we try to push up hips maybe farther than they need to be. Let there be some levelness as the spine comes forward from the hips towards the top of the pelvis. Most of the curve is going to be in the thoracic spine as it comes from the waist and up between the shoulder blades. But keep smooth there behind the waist. And we want to stay tucked with the chin and long through the cervical spine so that we don't hinge overly in the bottom of the neck. Let the bones of the thighs, the femurs, come up and push in towards the hips for support and come down. Take a moment, take a And then one more time, shoulder blades come in, elbows come in towards the waist. You might intertwine the fingers underneath, weight in the arms and the feet. Long and stable through the lumbar, spine, and sacrum. Femur, thigh bones coming up into the hips, little tuck in the chin. Strong, stable, and yet mobile through the thoracic spine. And bring it down. Extend the legs out. Right leg extends out. Left foot comes up by the right thigh. Hips go over towards the left. Arms come wide. Bring the left foot up on the right thigh. And then roll over. Now we're going to, this is how we usually get into our supine twist. We're going to change it up a little bit. Bring the hips over a little bit more. Bring a mild V to the knees and stack the hips. So the whole pelvic bowl lifts on one side and you're on your hip, side of your hip on the other side. So this is the safest way to do a supine twist because you're not bringing a lot of rotation to the lumbar vertebrae. Rather, the hips are taking it. And at the same time, we have to be a little careful of that hinge at the back of the waist, that it doesn't get too much rotation in it. So we don't want to over-rotate there at the waist. And yet realizing that we have the spiral through our thoracic spine and our cervical spine as we enjoy this supine twist. And rolling back through center. And this time, let's bring the hips over to the right and let both legs in a mild V come over. Arrange the hips so that they are stacked. So we're coming into it a little differently this time. Stacking the hips, mild V in the knees. Be careful of not too much rotation suddenly there at the hinge at the back of the waist. Just a gradual rotation and spiral up through the spine. Arms just go wherever they are comfortable. Maybe you get some stretch opening in that back arm in front of the shoulder, or maybe not. Maybe your head turns, or maybe not. Lots of options here. Relaxing into the twist. Enjoying whatever part of it feels good while you have that safe spine. And then coming back through center. Roll over once again to your side, bring yourself up, and we'll come into a tabletop position. So the point here in our tabletop position is to preserve the stability of the spine as we move. We don't want to explore the very deep ranges of mobility in the spine. Yes, mobility, but also stability. So always the balance between those two. A cat-cow, where we elongate the spine, the sense of elongating the spine from the pubic bone up through ribs, up through the collarbone, shoulder blades coming back at the same time, shoulders pulling away from the ears. So we have a long spine, respecting that ligament that comes up across the vertically and holds the spine in place. And we don't want to stretch that too much. And then lifting, arching up through the oblique muscles on the sides of the waist. There are ligaments running up all sides of the spine and ligaments between the vertebrae. They are there to limit the amount of movement, to keep the spine mobile with enough elasticity to accommodate our movement. At the same time, we don't want to give them so much wear and tear and stretch that they become tired and weak. Coming back through center. Bring the left hand under the shoulder, and the right hand under the right shoulder. The right foot is going to come back, toe on the mat or floor back behind. Arrange the hands so you're comfortable with their support, and then lift that foot in the back just 3 or 4 inches. Be aware of the hips staying horizontal and the spine staying very neutral here. Then bringing the weight into the left hand, weight into the right hand. Bring the option to extend the left arm out and the right leg. Keep length from the fingers on the left to the toes on the right, and let that length come into the spine, crown coming forward, and lumbar spine, sacrum reaching back, and come back. The important thing here is to keep the neutral spine, so we're not bringing too much weight into any part of the spine. Let's start with just the left foot coming back, toe on the mat or floor, and then lifting up, pulling back through that leg. Hips remain horizontal, long through the cervical and thoracic and lumbar spine. Then, if you'd like, bring the right hand forward, left foot back. Stay level here. Horizontal through the hips, neutral through the spine. And bring it down. And I should add that this is called sunbird, and it's also a very good way to, if you do it with a neutral spine, not to bring too much weight onto the spine and yet to strengthen your core. Let's come down into a Sphinx pose. Wiggle the hips around, make them comfortable, and maybe pull down a little bit through the fronts of the legs and the toes. Pull back through the forearms and feel the length through the spine. Keep the natural curves of the spine here, not too much of an up pull through the bottom of the thoracic, so that there's not too much hinging in the back of the waist or in the bottom of the neck. So the gaze doesn't come way up, rather the gaze stays right in the front of the mat. Just enjoying that length through the front of the body, but also the length through the spine. Then bringing the hands back under the shoulders, let's lift up, and we're going to come into a downward dog. The spine is key here in the downward dog. This is a posture that can strengthen the back chain of muscles in the body. It can be a stretch. It also can really give us some space between our vertebrae. So pushing back through hands, through arms, through the sides of the body, using those inner abdominal muscles to push back through the lower hips, feeling the length from the sacrum up through lumbar spine, through the curves of the spine, up through the cervical spine with a little forward movement through the back of the crown, knees remaining soft. And then let's come up onto our toes, keeping that length in the spine. So keeping the hips coming back and high, length in the spine as we lift the heels. And then come down onto knees, bring hands back. The weight comes into the fingers in front of the knees. Come back onto the toes and back up the fingers towards the toes. Raise up the hips and bring the hands to the shins. Press into the shins so that there is a long line from the sacrum up through the crown. There's some strength here in the core to help you out, but not coming up. The safest way to come up is to bend the knees, bring the belly towards the thigh, open the arms, bring the gaze and chest forward as you come up. And bring the hands down. So here we are in mountain once again. Let's do an alternative mountain today. We're going to bring our toes pigeon-toed. Big toes can even be touching each other. Come the arms, bring them into A frame with a little bit of lift through the fingers. Press down through the heels. There's a downward motion as well from the shoulders. So the shoulders are tending downwards, and you can feel some lifting up through the spine. Little tuck in the chin, long through the back of the body. And then relaxing that, bringing toes forward, rub the hands together. Then bringing one hand over the other. Get that feeling of magnetism as you're pulling some toffee apart and then pushing it back together. And at the same time, let that feeling come into the spine as it lengthens and then relaxes. And lengthens and relaxes. A few more times. Letting the breathing move with the hands and the spine. And one last time. Bring the hands along the side. Keep that feeling of length in the spine, of uprightness, the natural curves of the spine. Strong through the core, strong through the back muscles. Arms swinging as you just walk around your space. Just one foot in front of the other, a very gentle walk that keeps a very upright spine. So as you're walking, thinking about being kind to the spine, not decompressing those discs too much, keeping upright, the weight coming down just as it should through the very middle of the discs, those water balloons, not putting any wear and tear on the fibrous rings around. And that can happen so easily. You get tired and you slump a little bit forward or you slump back. And then those fibrous rings are getting some wear and tear. So just thinking that every once in a while as you're walking. Let's bring our fingers interlaced with 4 fingers up, so steeple fingers. We're going to come into a side bend, but a very long side bend. Feet sink down into the earth. Inhale up through the body as the fingers rise up. Stay long, come over just a little bit. Make it a very slight side bend. Emphasis on length through the spine. Inhale up, exhale over. Again, just a bit. Long, long through the spine. Coming up, and this time now a little bit more as the spine maintains its length. Yes, it can have mobility. Again, particularly through the thoracic spine here. And you can feel that the facet joints between the vertebrae allow this kind of mobility as long as there's also some elongation. There won't be the wear and tear that will ultimately make lower backs ache. Or sometimes it leads to pinched nerves if those discs, the water balloons, leak out from the fibrous rings. Bring the arms down. You can get herniated discs because the watery substance can leak out and affect the nerves and so on around the vertebrae. Let's bring our feet wide. Feet are a little splayed out this time, slightly turned towards the corners. Bring your hands up into Namaste at the chest. We're going to press into the balls of the feet and just raise the heels up ever so slightly and bring it down. Relax down through the jaw, relax down through the pelvic bowl. Weight into the feet, and yet let there be lightness through the thoracic spine. That lightness lets the heels float up. So just as there is floating up in the heels, there's floating up through the spine, the thoracic and the cervical spine, the top of the head bobulaceous on the neck. Now, option here to bring arms up in a wide V and continue coming up and down, feeling the lightness lifting up long through the spine and the stableness, especially of the lumbar spine, the sacrum, and down through the legs and into the heels when you come down. Balls of the feet, holding that stableness as you lift the heels, allowing yourself to just float up and down. Then bring the arms down. We're going to come into chair pose. Arms come out in front with palms facing each other. Hips come out to the back. Reach forward. Get the feeling of a diagonally straight spine. So we're not sinking in the middle. We're not coming around, arching in the back. Rather, we've got that same natural curves in our back as we reach out through the fingers. And then bring the arms down. Once again, hips come out to the back. Just come to where you feel most comfortable. Shoulder blades tending down towards the waist. Long through the back. No unnatural hinges, especially that can happen at the bottom of the neck or at the top of the neck vertebrae in chair pose. Come up once again. And one last time. Building strength while still keeping a long spine. And coming up. Bring hands back behind. Heels of the hands at the top of the hips and fingers down. And we'll try a back bend here. Elbows coming towards each other. Shoulder blades coming together. Inviting a curve up through the thoracic spine. Glutes are strong here, supporting the weight that comes onto the lumbar spine. And then opening from the pubic bone up through the collarbone. Most of the curve distributed through the vertebrae, but most of the curve coming through the thoracic spine and up into the cervical spine. So coming up, bending knees, crossing arms, reaching up and bringing the arms down. Hands come back behind the sacrum once again. Glutes engage. Long through the spine. Shoulder blades coming together. Opening. And coming up. One more time, cross arms. Bring arms up and around. Holding the sacrum. So these hands back here are really good for keeping the sacrum and lumbar spine quite stable, right? But we don't want to hinge at the waist in the back. So we keep length in the spine and we don't go as absolutely far as you might. I mean, you could come all the way back and hinge at the neck, but then you're really wearing and tearing on your back. And so we do it with a nice distribution of that curve up through the spine and bring it up. Bring your hands so that they are intertwined back behind your buttocks, pulling down through the hands. And this gives some support to the spine as you come forward. So this time, without raising the arms, just let the arms stay along the body. Fingers intertwined are pulling down, and the spine remains long as you hinge at the hip creases and then come back up. So this is a very stable way to come parallel here. Always the option, of course, to raise the hands as you come over. This brings a little bit more demand on the core. Certainly on the legs, on the feet, and come back up. So that's one you want to be a little more careful of, to try to keep that elongation through the spine, but at the same time, you don't have the arms giving you the support to the spine. So you have to have some strong core for that one. Let's try a balance. This is star balance, so it's a simpler one. We bring our feet a little wide. Bring the weight into the right foot. Point the right toe. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Point the left toe. The right arm comes up so that you have a diagonal across from right arm down through left foot. Lift up through the spine. Feel the weight coming down into that foundation leg. Lumbar spine doing its work here, stable. Lightness coming up through the spine. Then the other arm comes up. Option here to bring the weight over into that foot, keep the long spine, and lift that leg slightly. Keeping the long spine, that toe might come down and up a little bit. Feel the length up through the foundation leg, and then the lightness up through the lift of the top of the body. And then bring the weight into the left foot. Right foot comes out onto its toe. Left arm reaches up, feeling that length between fingers and toes, the connections here. And part of that connection is the spine, right? The spine holding the weight and yet lifting up with some space between the vertebrae as the other arm comes up. You're in an X here. You might stay like this, or you might lift and tap slightly, keeping that length, weight down, rooting down and lifting up, or you might hold up a little bit for 3, 2, and 1, and bring it down. Let's take a moment just to feel our feet just below our hips, hips below shoulders, head resting lightly, bobbleicious on the shoulders, shoulders relaxed, cheeks relaxed, jaw released. Light through the spine, and yet surrendering to gravity. Down through the pelvic bowl holding so much of the weight of the body along with the lumbar spine. Down through legs and into the feet, and then down into the earth. We're going to bring one foot forward and one foot back. There's some space in between the heels horizontally. All toes are forward into a high lunge pose. First, we're going to tuck the toes here in the back. The front knee is bent right over the ankle, and we're just going to come up and down, bending and straightening a little bit in both of the legs. The point here is to bring your attention to the spine. So letting the arms be heavy, the shoulders a little bit heavy, pulling up through the spine, through the back of the crown. So staying long even as you're moving. Then bringing stillness to your high lunge. Arms come out to the sides. Bring the hand that is opposite the front leg. Let that side rotate around towards the front leg. That front arm comes up. Back arm, hand, comes up behind the waist. We're not pushing too far forward through the waist, or else we would be hinging forward behind the waist. So the core is strong here. And yet the hand in the back there is giving some support to the lumbar spine. The legs are wide here, and so the spine can profit from a little bit more support. the arm lifted up can help us to remember, to bring spaciousness to the spine, some plumpness to the discs, and the weight coming straight down through the spine. And come around, change the feet, other foot comes back, tuck the toe as we raise up and down, mind's eye on the elongated spine, very gracefully, shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed, fingers soft, lightness up through the spine between each of the vertebrae, just a little bit of space. And then bringing that foot down in the back so it can be comfortable. Arms reach out to the sides. Turn the opposite arm towards the front leg. And so you're rotating the spine here. You're bringing some spiral to the spine, but at the same time, you're keeping the elongation. Give some support with that hand, back hand coming to the back of the waist and the other arm coming up. So the reminder to stay long and to stay strong. And bring everything down and bring the feet together. Let's come down onto our backs for a little bit of relaxation before we end here. Every night as we sleep, we allow the discs and the water balloons in the middle of them to decompress, plump up as water comes from the bones into those discs. And here too, we give a little chance for recovery, as the spine doesn't have to take any weight at all. And just gonna lie on the earth with its natural curves. You can bring the soles of the feet to the mat, bend the knees, bring the left ankle up on the right thigh. The left hand, the palm comes against the inner thigh and presses gently. For me, that's a nice feeling. It makes that gentle pressure brings some elongation through especially the lower spine. And it invites relaxation through the muscles of the inner abdomen, the psoas particularly, that is always working to help support the spine. Relaxing through the belly, behind the waist, up the side of the rib cage, and behind the heart, the back of the neck, around the skull, to the left eye, all the little muscles around the left eye, left cheek, the nostril, and the left side of the mouth. Unwind. Bring right ankle up on left thigh, and right palm comes against the inner right thigh. Relaxing down from knee, through the hip, into the inner abdomen. Letting the pressure of the hand bring a little bit of elongation to the spine. Soft through pelvic bowl, up through the rib cage, the liver, up through the right lung, up to the right jaw and the right temple. Relax through the eyebrow and eyelid of that right eye, the corners of the eye, the cheek, the nostril, and the right side of the mouth. I just missed it. Namaste. Thank you for stretching your spine today. Be well.